I have a new video for you guys because we need to talk about the 27 Club. This list of celebrities includes some of Hollywood's finest talent. From Kurt Cobain to Amy Winehouse to Jimi Hendrix, there are a lot of stars who lost their lives at the age of 27. But why? Today we're going to discuss this phenomenon and the mystery that surrounds the passing of the members in this club. So let's get into it. So many of you guys have asked me to make a video about the 27 Club. I'm really excited about this series. I'm going to make a two-parter about the 27 Club, this being the first one where we talk about how the club began and some of the key members. The 27 Club came about in between the years of 1969 and 1971. This is because Hollywood was losing a bunch of their finest at the ripe age of 27 years old, including Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison, all passing away at the age of 27. But it wasn't until 1994 that the term 27 Club was officially coined. This happened after Nirvana's frontman Kurt Cobain passed away at the age of 27, so people started talking about this club. And then in 2011, when Amy Winehouse passed away, the club gained even more attention. One theory about this club is that the stars made a satanic pact and sold their souls for talent and fame. Their debt would be paid in their 27th year of age. But some astrologists believe that the effects of the planet Saturn are felt at 27, which causes reckless behavior and therefore increases the chances of passing away. We will actually talk about the whole Saturn theory in part 2, but let's talk a little bit about Robert Johnson, because people really believe that he did sell his soul for fame and lost his life at the age of 27. Let's start off this video by talking about Robert Johnson. He was an American blues guitarist, singer, and songwriter. He had a gift when it came to singing, guitar skills, and songwriting, a talent that was taken too soon.
Did nobody seem to know me, babe? Everybody passed me by. Standing the crossroad, baby, ride the sun going down.
I find the story of Robert Johnson extremely fascinating because it starts back in 1930. He went to a venue where Son House and Willie Brown were playing. Between their sets, Robert Johnson decided to go pick up one of the musicians' guitars and attempted to play his own stuff on stage, but the crowd was not having it. He was extremely embarrassed and booed off stage. They told him to get out of here. Robert was only 19 at the time, and the club owners tossed him out. Then, one night, the same two guys were playing at another gig, and Robert Johnson walks in with a guitar strapped to his back. At that point, one of the artists was mocking Robert and said, "Boy, now where are you going with that thing? To noise somebody to death again?" But this time, something was different, very different about Robert Johnson. He pulled out his 6-string guitar, and actually it had a 7th string on it, which those musicians at that point never seen that before. And when Robert started playing at that gig in Mississippi, the musicians realized that he had acquired some insane skills and unusual techniques. At that point, it was less than a year that he was on stage embarrassing himself in front of everyone. Now he is back and he's doing tricks that they've never seen before. So legend has it that Robert Johnson took his guitars to the crossroads of highways 49 and 61 in Clarksdale, Mississippi. And at that point, he made a deal where the devil gave him his new skills in exchange for his soul at the age of 27. He returned back to the stage with an amazing technique and a mastery of the blues.
Baby, I don't care where you bear my butter when I'm dead and gone. You may bear my butter.
As you know, unfortunately, Robert passed away at the age of 27, so he only recorded 29 songs in total. But he was extremely influential to so many blues artists and musicians down the road. And it's a crazy story to think about this kid who went on stage and wasn't great at playing guitar, wasn't great at performing, and then he goes back. And in this interview, they claim it was only 6 months later, and he was so good. When he finished, all of our mouths were standing open. I said, "Well, ain't that fast? He's gone now." It turns out there's some mystery around Robert Johnson's passing as well, and you will see that as a theme throughout this video and the 27 Club, that there are a lot of questions when it comes to why these people passed away. In Robert's case, he was supposedly poisoned by a jealous husband of one of his mistresses. Here's a news snippet from back in 1938 that discusses Robert's passing, and pretty much they claim that this man named John Hammond was searching for Robert to join his concert. When he found Robert, he was already buried in the ground off of Highway 7. Obviously, America wasn't a great place for Black people back in the 1930s, and Robert Johnson's passing is an example of that. I mean, this man was an outstanding artist, yet when he passed away, he didn't get any special treatment. Robert allegedly passed away at a plantation near Greenwood, Mississippi. The cause of death on his certificate says that he was having complications of syphilis. According to a note on the back of the certificate, that was attributed to the plantation's owner. But honestly, I'm not buying that. I mean, syphilis was a problem back in the day at that time, but it's a little bit mysterious that some people claim that he was poisoned and then others claim that, oh no, he just had syphilis and was already buried in the ground. I mean, that's sketch alone. But one of Robert Johnson's close friends, David Honeyboy Edwards, claims that he believes that Robert Johnson was in fact poisoned. I mean, he performed with him just days before he passed away. And he too agrees that he was probably targeted by the vengeful husband of one of his mistresses. We don't really know what happened to that husband. Obviously, he was never charged, and that's very disappointing. It's also disappointing that Robert Johnson's grave has never been confirmed, so we don't know where his body is. But they do have headstones at different churches in the Greenwood area to mark his resting place. Now let's switch gears and talk about someone else who's in the 27 Club. Let's talk about Brian Jones. This man was an English musician and composer, and he's best known as the founder and original leader of the Rolling Stones. If you go and Google Brian Jones's passing, you will see that they have his cause of death listed as drowning, and they claim that he drowned by immersion in fresh water associated with severe liver dysfunction caused by fatty degeneration and ingestion of alcohol and drugs, which is a mouthful.
At the time of Brian Jones' death, there were only two other people with him at the cottage besides Thorogood, Brian's blonde Swedish girlfriend Anna Volin and a local nurse called Janet Lawson. Thorogood said the two women went inside the house, leaving him and Brian by the pool. Minutes later, overwhelmed by drink and drugs, Brian accidentally drowned. Police immediately suspected Thorogood.
And they're saying that they thought I'd done it. That's why they kept me behind.
Without any firm evidence against him, police had no choice but to accept his account of what happened that night.
On the 50th anniversary of Brian Jones's passing, his daughter said that he was in fact taken by someone rather than just accidental drowning. So let's talk about what happened the night that Brian Jones was found in a pool, passed away. So police reports claim that there were 3 people present on the night of Jones' passing. The guitarist's girlfriend, Anna, Keylock's girlfriend, Janet Lawson, and builder Frank Thorogood, Frank Thorogood, remember that name. He has actually been accused multiple times as the person who's responsible for Brian's passing. Before we get any further in this story, I want to introduce you guys to Tom Keylock. This man is a business person who was a driver and owned a transport company at one point, and back in the mid-60s and 70s, he worked as a road manager for the Rolling Stones. So according to Tom Keylock, he claims that his brother, Frank Keylock, who's actually a senior officer at Scotland Yard, that Brian Jones' passing was ordered to be a cover-up because of mistakes done by local police. So it looks like police could have gone and charged someone with this passing, but they really messed up at the beginning, so they just kind of wanted to end the case, get it over with to protect themselves. Tom Keylock said at some point they were going to try to charge someone, but the top of the police force told them to just forget it. They even acknowledged that Frank Thorogood is the only person who probably could have been the suspect, but police said again, just forget it. And the orders came from the very top to not pursue it anymore, and it was never pursued after that. Supposedly this guy, Frank Thorogood, took Brian's life in a dispute over money. So it looks like Brian Jones actually paid Frank Thorogood £18,000 to work on a farm. But it looks like Frank wanted a little bit more money, 6,000 more pounds, but Brian wasn't having it. I don't know if I believe the fact that this construction worker went and took Brian Jones's life over $6,000 and he ended up at the bottom of a pool. I mean, maybe it did happen, but there are some other key players in this mix that we need to take a better look at. Like this man Tom Keylock, because some people believe that he had a role in this. One issue we have with Tom is that he claims that he wasn't at the house when this all went down, but it turns out that he was actually there. He was present at the farm when Brian Jones passed away, so that's a big lie right there. Now I want to introduce you guys to this man, Sam Cutler. He was best known as the former tour manager for the Rolling Stones, the Grateful Dead, and many more bands. Sam Cutler actually believes that Tom Keylock is the one to blame, even though Tom was able to get a confession out of Frank Thorogood. I don't know if we talked, did I mention that actually Frank Thorogood did confess to taking Brian Jones's life, which was on his deathbed. He was about to pass away anyways, and he supposedly told Tom Keylock that he did in fact take Brian Jones's life.
You know, I went to see Frank in the hospital. He was very seriously ill. He looked very, very bad. And after a lengthy conversation, he said to me, Tom, there's something I've got to tell you. He said, I've got to put my house in order. And I thought, house in order? What's that? He said, I'll tell you something after all these years, but you must promise me not to say anything until I die. So, well, what's that? So he turned around and says, it was me that done Brian.
Thorogood was too ill to tell him more, so Tom arranged another visit 2 days later. But his friend died within a few hours.
But nobody's really buying that. Neither is Sam Cutler, who believes that Tom actually went and made Frank go and confess so that the police would believe that's their main suspect and not to ever consider him. Sam Cutler claims that Tom was acting very bizarre when it came to Brian's passing, that he was acting very suspicious, removing or destroying items at Brian's house. It doesn't look like there's going to be justice served in this case either, because these men are in their late 70s, early 80s, and they're all just like going back and forth like, oh no, you did it, oh no, you did it, and the police never did their job in the first place. The police did reopen the case in 2009 because there was some investigative journalists who brought forth new evidence, but the evidence wasn't damning enough to go and change what actually happened in the case. If you're gonna ask me, I personally believe that this Tom guy seems extremely sketchy. The fact that he would go and try to get a confession from Frank and, you know, take this extra leap to go and make himself seem innocent is making him look guilty. Especially after all of this time, he's still so worried about saving himself for what? Probably because he feels guilty. But let's go ahead and talk about our next member of the 27 Club, D. Boone. Dennis Dale Boone was an American singer, songwriter, and guitarist. Boone was best known as the guitarist and vocalist of the American pop rock trio Minutemen. In 1985, he passed away from a van crash at the age of 27. On December 13th, 1985, the band opened up for another band, REM, in Charlotte, North Carolina. The Minutemen actually joined REM on stage for an encore, and it was actually the last time that he ever performed on stage. 9 days later, on December 22nd, the van in which Boone was riding in swerved off the road, ejecting him through the rear doors, and he passed away on scene due to a broken neck. I do want to acknowledge that there's something different when it comes to D. Boone's life, because he's not like the other 27 Club members, because he wasn't really like addicted to anything. He wasn't extremely reckless. It was a very unfortunate situation. So what happened to D. Boone is that he was on a car ride with his fiance through the deserts of Arizona. His fiance's name is Linda Kite, and she was at the wheel along with her sister in the passenger seat. He was actually asleep in the back of the van when a sudden impact threw D. Boone onto the road, where he passed away instantly. The accident also left Linda Kite's sister, Janine, permanently disabled. Through the years, Linda decided to stay quiet when it came to that accident. She really didn't know what to make of it, but one day she came forth and gave her side of the story. So this snippet comes from a blog that Linda actually wrote herself, and pretty much she explains that when the accident happened, it was all so quick that she doesn't even really know what happened in that moment. So pretty much the police came up to her and was like, wait, what happened? Like, what's going on? They were questioning her a ton at the beginning. And keep in mind, when she was first approached by police, like, she didn't know what was going on. She was in shock. I'm sure she was blacking out. I mean, a bunch of trauma just happened right there. And her and the police officer came to the conclusion that she must have fallen asleep at the wheel. I mean, how could she not remember what just happened here? She must have fallen asleep and just woken up in this accident. Linda explains that she's an extremely skilled driver. She doesn't just fall asleep at the wheel. She has been driving for a very long time, and she's been safe forever. It wasn't until a couple days after the accident when there was this mechanic inspecting the car, and at that point he brings up the fact that the wheel axle busted. At that point, the mechanic actually went to Linda's house where she was recovering from her injuries and asked her, when did the wheel come off? Hearing this made Linda just remember everything that happened. At that moment, she was able to remember the wheel falling off of the car right when the accident happened, and then she blacked out. So that whole wheel breaking in the van and the van busting up, like, that seems to be the legit truth rather than she just like falling asleep at the wheel and falling off of the road. Fortunately, the police reports were amended, so they were able to go back and fix what actually happened and corrected that Linda didn't actually fall asleep, but the axle and the wheel and the tire and all that, I don't know anything about cars, but that broke and it caused them to crash and he passed away, which is extremely unfortunate. Actually, the reason why I wanted to do this video was because I made a big video about Amy Winehouse and I brought up the 27 Club and you guys wanted me to talk about it. So let's end part 1 by talking about Amy Winehouse, and in part 2 we have so much more to get through. Amy Jade Winehouse was an English singer and songwriter known for her deep, expressive vocals and her eclectic mix of musical genres, including soul, rhythm, blues, and jazz. If you guys have not seen my video about the life of Amy Winehouse, definitely go check that out because we start from beginning to end, but let's talk about the end. So on July 23rd, 2011, EMT was called to her flat at 3:54 p.m. by her bodyguard. Police arrived 11 minutes later and they found Amy Winehouse passed away on the scene. Again, she was 27 years old. At that point, they weren't 100% sure why or how she passed away. If you guys have seen my video about Amy Winehouse, then you already know that Amy was struggling, and everyone knew that. I mean, the entire world knew. But the day that she passed away, her bodyguard claims that she was laughing, listening to music, and watching TV until the early hours. Yet the next morning, her bodyguard, Andrew Morris, found Amy motionless in her bed. A coroner's report recorded that she passed away of alcohol poisoning. Even though I do believe her father has a big part in her passing, I don't even really want to go down that rabbit hole right now. I mean, if you guys really want me to, let me know, but I mean, that guy just sketches me out. I feel like he's going to come for me if I actually expose him. But I want to talk a little bit about Amy's ED. Obviously, I can't say ED, eating, just, you know what I'm trying to say, because YouTube is really censored when it comes to that. But Amy struggled with her ED, and it's very clear that that contributed to her passing. Actually, Amy's brother Alex claims what really took her life was her ED, because she wasn't getting treatment for it. Her brother Alex believed that she was more weak and susceptible to alcohol poisoning because of her ED. So yeah, drinking may have technically took her life, but it was this issue with eating and keeping food down that really was the core of her problems. Amy did talk a little bit about her ED and claims that she actually developed it in her late teens. Her brother claims as a 17-year-old, his sister had a group of friends who were all doing it. They would put loads of rich sauces on their food, scarf it down, and then get rid of it. Even though Amy's life is pretty well documented and there's a bunch of documentaries and people talk about it, nobody really talks about her ED. It is rarely mentioned. But there was one documentary where someone who was working on the Back to Black album claims that they saw Amy eat a very large meal and then disappeared for 45 minutes and returned with smeared makeup. At that point, her team realized that she went to the bathroom and just got rid of everything she just eaten. Another accounting claims that she lived off crunchy bars, up to 10 at a time, with a bunch of candy and bottles of orange sport. She would have a massive McDonald's and then get rid of it all in the bathroom. Once they found their toothbrush covered in throw up and then asked her about it. Oh, there are so many people who failed Amy Winehouse. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's so sad to think that people were around her, witnessing her, getting rid of her food, not taking care of herself, but they weren't really ever focused on getting her help. I mean, it's clear that Amy wanted to get help when it came to alcohol and different drugs and addiction issues, but why wasn't she ever given the opportunity to go and work on her ED? It's like we talked about the substances and things like that, but we never talked about the ED and her well-being, which that really contributed to the weakness that she was experiencing and probably led to her alcohol poisoning. What's sick about Amy's case is that she revealed this when she was a teenager. She told her parents that she was experiencing this, yet her parents did not stop her, and these behaviors went into adulthood. So she never got the help that she truly needed, and there wasn't anyone there to go and try to save her. Remember, guys, that I believe her father is pretty sketchy when it comes to her passing, but people try to turn a blind eye to that because whatever. I mean, I feel like, honestly, like, I think about Britney Spears and her father, and I kind of think, like, Amy and her father had, like, the same relationship in the sense that he was looking at Amy as a money-making machine. And even though he knew she had an ED and issues with substances, he never put her in a facility long enough to correct those issues because she would go back on stage and experience the same thing. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was part 1. In part 2, we're going to talk about Jimi Hendrix. We're also going to talk about Jim Morrison. We're going to talk about Kurt Cobain and how Courtney Love took his life. There is a lot to unpack when it comes to the 27 Club. And then we're going to finish part 2 by talking about some of the conspiracies that try to explain why this is happening. But I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 of this video. If you have any video ideas for me, here is my email. Feel free to email me any ideas you guys have because the 27 Club was an awesome idea and it's taken me a long time to make this video. So that's why we're filming 2 parts. But let's go ahead and open a P.O. Box package item. This one is from Mickeey's lab. So let's go ahead and see what's going on. It looks like they are located in the United States, which is cool. And let's go ahead and open it. So if you guys ever have anything you want to send me or anything, no pressure at all. I've got my P.O. Box listed below, but I like to open P.O. Box package items to give a little shout out to a small business or, maybe just to a friend, a subscriber friend. Okay, this is really packaged really well. So let's see. Oh. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, okay, I just tore it right open. Okay, let's dig in. So, oh my gosh, it looks like she has some incense here, which I love. Oh my gosh, these smell really good. Okay, I need to find a card before we get into this. Again, packaging is really great. Oh, and the card is right on top. Hey Sloan, how are you? I'm great. Hope all is well. Let me start off by introducing myself. My name is Mackenzie, and I am the owner of Mackenzie Lab. We are an Instagram, gym, and crystal shop. I watch your channel all the time while packing orders, so I decided to send you some light and love. Oh my gosh, I hope you love them. Thank you, Mickeey. And some stones you sent. So it looks like she sent me a bunch of stones here, which I'm so excited about. And I love that you put the names because I never know what they exactly mean, so I can go and do my research. So cute. I love love the packaging. And let's go ahead and see what she sent. Oh my gosh, these are so good. I'm going to have to wear some of this for part 2. So look out for part 2. Okay, so this one looks like it's a stone right here. This is so nice. What are you talking about? Look at that. Oh my gosh. So I think I know this one. I definitely do know this one, but I don't know the name right now. But look how pretty. And this is actually one of the nicest ones I've seen because they're very condensed here. They're not very spread out. And you can tell that it's a very like, that's straight up crystal right there. Oh, it's so pretty. Oh, it's giving me such good vibes. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and see the next one that you sent me. This one also is wrapped really nicely. And I love that you've got the stickers with the small business. So cute. I love these. Oh my gosh, what is going on here? Okay, this one's got a little bit of flake to it. Look at that. It's like a black rock, and then it's got a silver rock. I don't know what this one would be called, though. Again, I'm so like, what does this one mean? It smells good, though. Ew, it doesn't have a taste. Just texture, just texture. Okay, that was probably so weird. Oh, some Palo Santo. Oh, I love Palo Santo. If you guys don't have it, okay, so one thing back in the day, incense used to kind of like hurt my head. They don't really anymore. I think you just need to have like, you know, some airflow. But these, if this hurts your head, use Palo Santo because that smells like a campfire every single day in your house and it smells so nice. And now let's go ahead and see. I think this is the final package right here, which, wow, oh my gosh, I love, oh my gosh. I think that rock dust is coming back up to get me. Okay, this is actually the most beautiful thing. I love the colors of this because it's just giving me nude and oh my gosh. This is such a vibe. I love this bracelet so much. I think it's lagging a little. Okay, so cool. It looks like she sent me a sticker, which is great. I can add that to my sticker collection. She's got a card right here, which I'm going to link everything below, of course. So definitely go check it out. And it looks like she sent me a variety. I don't want to like drop any of these, but she sent me some really cool like oh my gosh, this one. Oh, look at that. This one looks like it's literally like has flowers in it. How do you even get rocks like this? Like, are you sure Earth made this one? And then it looks like she sent me a purple one here. And I don't want to take these ones out because I'm literally going to drop them because my hands are so big. But wow, some really pretty stones and crystals in here, which I love. It's just giving me such good vibes. Thank you so much. I really love these things. Definitely go check out their shop. I mean, there's some amazing stones here. So go support a small business and a fellow friend of the channel. Thank you guys so much. And I'll see you in part 2. Bye, guys.